Let me ask you something. Have you ever chased perfection so hard that it just shattered you? I mean, what if the very faith that you thought was saving you was actually the thing burning you out completely? That's the paradox we're going to get into today. All right, let's get right into it. We're going to start taking apart this system that has so many people just running on fumes. We call it the performance trap. You know this feeling, don't you? Waking up and just the exhaustion is already there. It's in your bones. So what do? You double down, right? You pray longer. You serve harder. You force that smile just a little wider at church. You're doing everything you're supposed to. But that hole inside, it just keeps getting bigger. And this is the question that just haunts people. You're doing everything right. You're checking all the boxes. So why? Why do you feel so empty, so hollow, maybe even dead inside? I need you to hear this. If that's you are not failing. You're having the exact right reaction to a totally impossible situation. Because the truth is, well, it's a little darker than you might think. You see, you're not failing a faith. No, you are being consumed, piece by a system that actually takes your devotion, your deep desire to do good, and it twists it against you.
And this might be the most radical thing you hear all day. That demanding, relentless God you think you're chasing, that's not him. The real God, he doesn't want your hustle. He's not interested in your performance. You know what he wants? Your collapse. He is waiting for you to completely fall apart so he can be the one to put you back together, the right way, on a foundation of grace, not grind.
So how does this even happen? How does a sincere faith turn into this devastating burnout cycle? Let's break down the mechanics.
Okay, so the engine driving all this is something called performance theology. It's this belief system, and it's usually not even spoken out loud, but you feel it, you know? It subtly teaches you that God's love, his approval, that it all depends on your spiritual output, on how much you do, how perfectly you pray, how flawless you look to everyone else.
And what does that create? It creates this culture where those big church smiles are just hiding a totally hollow shell inside. You're leading the group, you're volunteering for everything, you're shoving down the doubts and the panic because you've been taught that good Christians don't have those. You're literally performing, trying to earn a grace that was supposed to be free. But here's the crazy part. This isn't just a spiritual thing. It's not about trying harder. This system gets physical. It actually, literally rewires your brain. It makes it work just like an addict's. And here's how that addiction cycle works. It's a 3-part trap. First, there's the trigger. Public approval. You know, that youth group star effect where everyone's telling you how great you are? That praise? That's your chemical hit. A real dopamine rush that makes you feel chosen, special. But then there's the crash. It comes when you try to rest, when you just can't keep up anymore. And it's a tidal wave of shame and self-doubt, whispering that you're not enough. So what's the only way to feel good again? Get back on the hamster wheel. Perform. It's an absolutely vicious cycle. So think of it like this. There are 2 paths. The first one is what we'll call man's chain. It's heavy. It demands perfection, constant effort, and it will always lead to burnout. But then there's God's yoke. It's completely different. It doesn't demand perfection. It invites the weary. It doesn't give you more rules. It offers you true rest. And it doesn't lead to burnout. It leads to freedom. You know, this can all feel a bit conceptual. So let's make it real. Let's talk about someone who was trapped right in the middle of this. Her name is Emma. So, Emma, she's 28, and on the outside, she is the absolute gold standard. I mean, she's the worship leader, she runs a small group, she's even got the look, you know? The wavy brown hair, the cream sweater, the perfect little silver cross. And her reputation? Flawless. Her prayers in front of everyone are beautiful. She's always the first to volunteer, always the last to leave. She is the person everyone else wants to be. But then one Sunday, after leading worship just perfectly, the whole thing just shattered. The room starts to empty out and she just collapses into a chair. Her hair's all matted with sweat, she's pale, and she just whispers to the empty room, "I led worship flawlessly. I prayed publicly. Why? Why do I feel so dead inside?" It was the one question she'd been pushing down for years. And in that one moment, it all just came crushing down. All the years of striving, the pressure, the secret panic attacks she was having in our car right before walking into church, the terrifying doubts about God, about her own salvation that she just kept silencing. She wasn't just tired. She was done.
completely burned out. And honestly, she was ready to quit faith entirely.
And that's when her pastor, Mike, found her. And he didn't give her a pep talk or a list of things to do. He just sat with her, and he said something that changed everything. He said, "Emma, what you're in, that's man's chain. It's not God's yoke. You're burned out from chasing shadows. Grace is waiting for you." And for the first time, someone gave her permission to just stop. So Emma's story is about a collapse, for sure, but it's also about healing. And her journey out of that trap, it wasn't random. It actually followed a pretty clear path, a framework that, honestly, any of us can use to find our way back to rest. So here it is, the 5-step framework. It's pretty straightforward. 1, expose the lie. 2, detox the mind. 3, redefine God. 4, rest radically. And 5, rebuild community. Let's walk through them. Okay, step 1, and this one might be the hardest. You have to expose the lie. This means being brutally honest with yourself. You have to call this system what it is: poison. It means you gotta look at Bible verses that have been kind of twisted and used against you, the ones that demand all this impossible effort, and start seeing them for what they really are: signs pointing you toward grace. All right, step 2, detox the mind. This is where the work gets really practical. I'm talking grab a journal and start writing down your triggers. The next time you feel that pressure to perform, just stop and ask yourself this one hard question: whose approval am I actually chasing right now? Is it God's or is it people's? It's all about replacing that mental checklist in your head with what's actually true. And if you need one single truth to anchor yourself to, this is it. Ephesians 2:8-9. For by grace you have been saved through faith. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. I mean, you should memorize this. Meditate on it. Let it become like the new operating system for your soul, because that's what it is, a gift, not something you earn. Step 3 is huge. You have to redefine God, because this performance trap, it paints this picture of God as a disappointed tyrant, just waiting for you to mess up. You have to get rid of that image. You need to fill your mind with scriptures that show you who he really is, like Zephaniah 3:17, that says he actually delights in you and rejoices over you with singing. He's a loving father, not a demanding boss. And now for step 4. This is where you get to be a bit of a rebel. You have to rest radically. I mean, in a culture that worships the hustle, choosing to rest is a revolutionary act. This looks like taking a real Sabbath with no guilt allowed. It means learning to say no, even to good things, to protect your own soul. And maybe the most radical part, it means letting your weakness show and trusting that you're loved right there in the middle of it. And last but not least, step 5, rebuild community. Please hear me on this. You cannot do this alone. You have to find your people. Not another place where you have to perform, but honest circles. Places where you can show up and say, I'm failing or I'm exhausted. And instead of getting judgment, you just get grace. That's the goal. Now, following these steps isn't about, performing your healing perfectly. It's just about creating some space to finally receive a truth that's been waiting for you this whole time. A truth about who you are, right in this very moment. I really want you to let this land. You are worthy, right now. Not tomorrow, not when you finally feel better, not after you get your act together. Your worth is a settled fact. It is not up for debate. It has no conditions. Your worth isn't some prize waiting for you on the other side of perfection. It's not something you get after you've fixed your burnout. It is real right now. And that is the heart of grace. It's not just a theological idea, it's an embrace. It's something that holds you, exactly as you are, imperfect, exhausted, and still fiercely loved. There's nothing you need to do to earn it, ever. And when you start to embrace that, that's the beginning of freedom. But as anyone who's gotten out of a trap knows, the hardest part isn't getting out, it's staying out. So what happened with Emma? Well, she finally learned how to breathe again. That crushing weight lifted. And eventually, she did start serving again, but it was totally different. It wasn't from obligation anymore. It was from overflow. Not from duty, but from joy. But we have to be honest here, that transition, it isn't a straight line. It's messy. Because that old programming, man, it runs deep. So the real question, the one we have to leave you with, is this one. What happens when the old habits creep back in? What do you do when that familiar voice starts whispering, do more, be more, just so you can feel safe again? Figuring that out, well, that's the next part of the journey.